Ricky writes, I'm building a new mountain bike and I really want to go with XTR, but I don't have the money. Is it possible to only use some XTR components without losing too much performance? If so, where do you suggest substituting other parts? Great question, Ricky. Because XTR is now an 11-speed group, that means there are plenty of deals to be had on 10-speed XTR components. But even so, XTR components on closeout still aren't exactly cheap. So, to assemble the best value build possible, you'll need to mix and match 10-speed parts from Shimano's lower level component groups. Let's start by talking about derailleurs. When it comes to shifting performance, rear derailleurs are highly overrated and front derailleurs are highly underrated. The rear derailleur can only be as precise as a shifter attached to the other end of the cable. Because the indexes are so small in a rear shifter, a little bit of imprecision in the mechanism makes a big difference at the derailleur. Mating an XT rear derailleur or even an SLX model to an XTR rear shifter will work far better than doing the reverse, as bikes are often spec'd from the factory. The reason product managers spec'd high-end rear derailleurs with cheaper shifters on new bikes is that the rear derailleur is much more visible, thus making it more enticing to a customer making a purchase. So I recommend going with an XTR rear shifter mated to an XT rear derailleur for my value build rear shifting pick. The XTR rear shifter operates smoother and is more precise than XT. Plus, they continue to work flawlessly for years. For the rear derailleur, I choose XT because this derailleur has tighter pivot tolerances than SLX, which means XT derailleurs shift better and last longer. XT rear derailleurs also come with bearing-equipped pulleys that improve shifting precision, drivetrain efficiency, and have a longer usable lifespan than the cheap pulleys found on the SLX rear derailleur. With respect to front shifting, I've never used a front shifter that didn't work great. Sure, some low-end offerings don't feel as smooth or precise, but they work reliably and they never miss a shift. Your money is better spent on an XTR front derailleur mated to either an SLX or Dior front shifter. XTR front derailleurs come with stiffer springs and a thicker steel cage that does not flex as much as its XT and SLX counterparts when pressed against a chain during a shift. The difference in performance between the XTR front derailleur and the rest of Shimano's front derailleurs is huge, but the price difference is small compared to the disparity in price between Shimano's various rear derailleurs. As for the cassette, my recommendation is to go with an XT cassette because it shifts almost identically to an XTR cassette, but lasts longer because all of the cogs on the XT cassette are made of steel rather than titanium. XT is also lighter and shifts better than SLX and is only a few dollars more. For cranks, you can't beat XTR, but it's the most expensive component in the group. In my experience, the XT and SLX chain rings both shift great. The performance of XT and SLX rings is almost exactly the same and the weight difference between the two is negligible, so my budget pick for a crank is SLX. When it comes to bottom brackets, the XTR unit features lower friction seals and higher quality bearings than XT and SLX. The price difference between all three isn't much, so my bottom bracket pick is XTR. For the chain, I would just go whole hog and get XTR. The finish is better, which results in smoother shifts, plus XTR chains have more stainless steel parts to resist rust better than the budget chains. When it comes time to stop, there is no difference in braking power between XTR Trail, XT, and SLX disc brakes. So the differences here are weight and features. XT has all the same adjustment features that XTR has, including tool-free reach adjust and free stroke adjustment. The SLX brake is the same brake as XT, but doesn't have the free stroke adjustment screw. Personally, I don't think the free stroke adjustment screw is necessary, so my budget pick for brakes is SLX. However, the price difference between the two is small, so if you can afford the extra 20 bucks, go with the XTs. Now for rotors, you want to go with rotors that are equipped with Shimano's Ice Tech. This type of rotor uses a small sheet of aluminum sandwiched in the middle of the rotor to help dissipate heat faster than a traditional fully stainless steel rotor. While the XTR RT99 rotors are certainly the best in the lineup, they are pricey and only compatible with centerlock hubs. So I recommend you go with the SLX RT68 Ice Tech rotors if you have centerlock compatible hubs. And for folks with 6-bolt hubs, you'll need to go with the slightly more expensive XT RT86 Ice Tech rotor. To sum it all up, here are my picks for the best bang for the buck 10-speed Shimano mountain group. Rear shifter, XTR M980. Front shifter, SLX M670. Rear derailleur, XT M786. Front derailleur, XTR M980. Cassette, XT M771. Crankset, SLX M675. Bottom bracket, XTR SM-BB93 or 94. Chain, CN-M981. Brakes, SLX M675 or XT M785 depending on budget. Rotors, SLX RT68 for center lock hubs and XT RT86 for 6-bolt hubs. If you want your question asked on Ask a Mechanic presented by Cyclery, send your inquiry to webletters@competitorgroup.com.